What's up guys, Ruppy here bringing you my team builder for week 4 of the Pokemon Trainer Grand Tournament. Now, before I get into this, I do want to clear up a few things in case some of you might be curious as to what I'm bringing in, why I'm bringing it. I really did not have a whole lot of time to prep this week. I'm just gonna say that up front. I'm not, if something happens I lose this game, I'm not trying to make excuses. It's just the unfortunate hand that life dealt me this week. It's been quite a rough week for me in terms of trying to get everything organized between some things pertaining to work that I would rather not get into right now because they could ruin a few things. I'll just leave it at that. As well as trying to get all my stuff together because, as you guys know, PAX West is coming up, and I have stated before that I am going to be in attendance. More information on that will be coming soon enough because there's a few things I'm kind of waiting on to fall into place. So, I didn't have a whole lot of time to prep this week. I still tried to prep to the best of my abilities, but some of my stuff might be more standard-ish this week. And it kind of didn't help that I have a really rough team to prepare for this week. Perhaps even more so than the past few weeks, believe it or not. As you can see by the team that's sitting off to the side of the screen there. My opponent this week was originally supposed to be the Tampa Bay Tapu Kokos, coached by Sparky. However, as I stated in last week's video, he has since left the league because he simply did not have the time to keep up with it. So replacing him is Matt, aka Inferno Chimchar, and the Manhattan Manectrics, who they took the draft the Tapu Kokos managed to put together, made a couple moves to trade a few things out, and the team that's sitting off to the side there is what you see. Now, compared to my 3-0 record for my Columbus Swoo, his record is 1-2. However, it should be noted that the two losses were both forfeit losses on behalf of the Tapu Kokos because of the inability to be able to get games scheduled because, as I've said before, Sparky simply didn't have time for the league. So, as far as when he's actually taken over, Matt is actually 1-0 with the team he's got here, and it's a rather nasty team, I am not gonna lie. He has Mega Charizard X, which I know all too well, considering Charizard is my younger brother's favorite Pokemon. Mega Charizard X hits ridiculously hard. It's very likely going to be a Dragon Dancer. If he doesn't bring D-Dance, then that's actually more beneficial to me. But let's be honest, if you're going to bring Mega Charizard X, 9 times out of 10, you're going to look to set up a Dragon Dance and then just try to rip holes in a team. I have defensive things that can take a Mega Charizard X on, but I need to be able to wipe that thing out relatively quickly if I want to have any hope of basically trying to make any headway in this game. Rotom Wash, a major pain in the ass that I am all too familiar with. If you guys remember the train wreck, at least to me it was. That was my inter-league game I had for the Ion Pokemon League, where I pitted my GPL Olivine Beacons against the Houston Raichus, coached by Tesla Mouse from the NPA. Rotom Wash is a pain in the ass. It's probably gonna Will-O-Wisp me, it's probably gonna Volt Switch out on me to try to get beneficial matchups. It's a very good pivot Pokemon, and very viable, especially to his team, considering how everything came together. His last OU pick, he actually picked up from free agency when he was reorganizing the team that he got. He picked up Tornadus Therian, which Tornadus Therian's a huge problem for my team. It outspeeds everything I have. Not to mention the fact that if he Assault Vests it, I am going to have quite a difficult task ahead of me trying to bring this thing down because it will be able to tank a hits that honestly should be wiping it out. Regenerator's definitely a problem. So, Tornadus Therian actually poses quite a problem for my team. It doesn't necessarily one-shot a lot of things on my team, but from a defensive standpoint, it's going to be very difficult for me to bring down. Dipping into his UU picks, his first one there, which was also picked up from free agency, is Nidoking, which I know all too well because it is my second favorite Pokemon right behind Pidgeot. Nidoking, well, Sheer Force, Life Orb, has a ridiculously deep special move pool, can actually hit relatively hard on the physical side too. Need I say anything more? I can handle Nidoking because I have mons that outspeed it, but it's going to hit me relatively hard if I let it, so it's going to be quite a pain. Chestnut, just a straight up tank. If he runs Bulletproof on it, which he probably will, then some of my moves won't even be able to touch it. It's probably going to sit there, setting up spikes. Actually, I want to double check one thing really quick, because it could actually... I'm almost positive on this, I just want to double check my facts. But what you need to know for sure is Chestnut, it can take hits. Being grass type means it's... Well, I have things that can take it out, it's just going to be a pain in the ass to do so, because it actually can be relatively physically defensive. Alright, just got that out of the way, what I wanted to double check. It can hit decently hard too, but honestly, I don't think I'm going to have to worry too much about that. Gardevoir, it's not Mega Gardevoir, but if I can handle a Mega Gardevoir, I think I can handle regular Gardevoir. It pretty much does the same thing, except it doesn't have Pixelate at its disposal. Trace will definitely be a problem for me, but we'll see how that one plays out. I have answers to Gardevoir, as like I said before, if I can handle Mega Gardevoir, I can certainly handle regular Gardevoir, but it depends on how that one plays out. RU picks, he has Drapion sitting there. Drapion's a bit of a pain in the ass for my team. It can set up Toxic Spikes, it can whirlwind things out. I have a few things that do not necessarily want to deal with a Dark type, even though they can take the hits. Drapion can be threatening if he brings it, depending on how the matchup at hand plays out. I definitely need to basically... Well, I'll actually get more into that later. Uxie, that thing can do a number of things. It can set up screens, it can Stealth Rock, it can blow up in my face if he really wanted it to. Cinccino, I actually think I stated in my draft analysis video that I was on the fence between Ambipom and Cinccino. And the reason I passed up Cinccino and took Ambipom instead was because of the fact that even though from a one-on-one matchup standpoint, Cinccino is the better Pokemon because of the versatility it gains from being able to abuse Skill Link, from a team standpoint, Ambipom helps out a lot better because Fake Out does damage and breaks sashes. This thing can knock off any items to help my team out. Return hits ridiculously hard because of Technician. Well, not necessarily because of Technician, but Fake Out definitely hits hard because of Technician. Return just hits hard in general. So, it's going to be interesting getting to face Cinccino after all, but I think I made the right call in deciding to go with Ambipom instead. His NU picks, he's got the male Meowstic, which means Prankster Shenanigans, which... nothing really more I can say on that. Regirock, which was the whole reason that he ended up getting a 5-0 victory for his very first game with this, joining the league in week 3 last week. Regirock, I can't even talk. Regirock is a major pain because it's a very good defensive wall, perhaps even better than Registeel, which of course is on my team. It's a Stealth Rock setter, it can sit there, do the usual defensive shenanigans. I think it's got access to T-Wave, I know it can Seismic Toss, it can just straight up hit you with moves like Drain Punch, it's got Rock Stab obviously. Regirock is a major pain. And there sitting in his last slot is Avalugg, speaking of defensive pains, although Avalugg really only applies from the physical side. Now, here's the interesting thing. Avalugg is his only form of hazard control, and from having used Avalugg myself in the past as part of an Ice Monotype team, don't ask why I even thought that was a good idea, Avalugg is not really the greatest spinner to have in all honesty, because of the various amounts of weaknesses it has, even though it is very capable of taking hits, more so from the physical side obviously, but if he brings Avalugg, as soon as that thing is gone, he's not getting rid of my hazards anytime soon. Actually, I don't Tornadus Therian might get defog, but he would have to forego Assault Vest in that case. I'm honestly not sure. I'm going to treat it as though he's going to bring Assault Vest, because that's honestly the set that I'm going to have the most trouble with if he does bring Tornadus. But ignoring that possibility, Avalux is only Hazard Control, and I am planning on... Basically, Hazards are my biggest way to win this game, I've noticed. Because if I get my rocks up early, Rotom Wash is not going to like repeatedly switching in on rocks. The rocks are really going to some extent, nullify Tornadus Therian's Regenerator, which is definitely going to help. They're going to chip away at everything else. If I can get them up before Charizard comes in, then Charizard is certainly not going to appreciate losing basically half of its health to rocks before it even gets a chance to Mega Evolve, and they're certainly going to hinder it going forward beyond that. And I definitely have another form of Hazard that I am also bringing this week that is also going to help out in basically putting my team as a whole in a much better position to be able to handle his team. So let's go over what I'm bringing to the table this week, starting with the grand return of Leechgrave, my Cofagrigus, who did what it needed to do last week against the Lacanosa Lucarios. It basically worked in tandem with Ambipom to shut down the Suicune threat that could have really been disastrous against my team. I'm pretty much bringing relatively the same set this week. I've got leftovers, pretty much the same spread, focusing more so on defense. It can take some special defensive hits, but this thing is honestly going to be a much better check for me for some of his more physical mons, especially Mega Charizard X, honestly. And it definitely does not want... Well, it definitely would love to be able to deal with Cinccino, too, if he brings it, because Cinccino can't really do a whole hell of a lot to Leechgrave. Shadow Ball, Pain Split, and Haze are also returning. Haze more so to try to get rid of, say, Mega Charizard X's Dragon Dances, or if he tries to set up a Source Dance with his Drapion, perhaps, or if he decides to go Calm Mind with Gardevoir. So that takes care of that. The only real difference is I switched out Will-O-Wisp for Toxic. That might seem like a bad idea, considering if you look over his team, he's half physical, half special from the offensive standpoint. So wouldn't I want to burn his physical attackers? Well, as far as his most threatening physical attackers against me, Mega Charizard X is immune to Will-O-Wisp by virtue of being a fire type. Chestnut, honestly, if it Leech Seeds me, then the Leech Seed is going to, for the most part, counteract the Will-O-Wisp burn. Really, Toxic is the better option in my opinion to wear down, because it'll wear down Mega Charizard X, it'll wear down Rotom Wash and Tornadus Therian, which are the biggest walls that are going to be problematic for me. It's not going to affect either Nidoking or Drapion, but honestly, I wasn't really planning on leaving Cofagrigus in against Drapion anyway, and Nidoking is most likely going to be a special attacking variant, so the Will-O-Wisp isn't really bothering it anyway. I have other ways of dealing with those two. But everything else, honestly, even on things like Avalugg and Regirock, the Toxic is going to be a huge help in wearing them down over time, because I can take whatever they can dish out, and basically stall for time if need to, in order for the Toxic to rack up and help me in bringing them down. Also coming along again this week is the Fool, my Ditto. Obviously again, stats really don't matter for this thing, because as soon as it comes in, Imposter's going to turn it into something else, I'm going to take on its stats, etc, etc. The IVs are there to give me Hidden Power Rock, which, honestly, trying to figure out which Hidden Power I wanted to go with, if he even brings a Hidden Power this week, was kind of a challenge. But I think Rock honestly works the best for me because it hits Tornadus Therian, super effective. It'll hit the Rotom Wash. Mega Charizard X doesn't want to take an HP Rock. But the Fool's main purpose, aside from scouting sets this week, is basically the same thing. The same thing it was. Yeah, if I can talk. The same purpose it kind of had for Mega Altaria last week in my game with the Lucarios. It's basically there, in addition to kind of work in tandem with Leechgrave, to deter him from trying to set up Dragon Dances with Mega Charizard X. Because if he does this, if he doesn't bring Gardevoir, then if I bring Ditto in on this thing after set up a couple Dragon Dances, I can just Dragon Claw the vast majority of his team into oblivion. Not a whole lot on this team really wants to even eat a Flare Blitz from a boosted Mega Charizard X if that's what Ditto turns into. Really, I have a feeling Charizard X is going to come, even though, as per usual, I tried to blanket prep to the best of my ability. But him Dragon Dancing with Mega Charizard X basically opens the door for me to bring the Fool in, abuse the Choice Scarf, and proceed to lay waste to his team in one form or another. So that's why Ditto's coming along. Basically, it'll either deter him from bringing Mega Charizard X altogether, even though it is quite a threat against my team, or it'll make him wary to Dragon Dance because of what I can do if I get a hold of it. Coming along, as per usual, is kind of my main team helper here, Self High Five, the Ambipom. Going back to kind of the traditional set I've been running, Fake Out, Return, Knockoff, just the standard EVs, holding the Life Orb, running Technician. The main difference this week is instead of Low Kick, which honestly isn't really doing a whole lot for me looking at his team, even against the Regirock, I decided to go for Aerial Ace, more so just to give me an answer to really smack Chestnut upside the head if he brings it, because Chestnut has the potential to be an issue for me, just because of how defensive it is. Aerial Ace can 2-hit KO it, especially with the Life Orb and the Technician boost. But Ambipom's purpose is pretty much the same as it's been in past weeks. Use Fake Out to get free damage off on pretty much everything. Break any sashes he might be running if he decides to bring them. I don't really see much he would want to run a Focus Sash on. Maybe the Meow Stick. But basically, Fake Out breaks sashes, Return hits everything ridiculously hard, Knockoff gets rid of items, Aerial Ace is mostly there for Chestnut, is really there just for Chestnut. So, not much really needs to be said about Self High Five this week. Making its PTGT debut at long last is Spider Dance, my Galvantula. The name is an Undertale reference, for those of you curious. It's the name of, Muffet's song. So it kind of makes sense. Spider Dance. This is my second Life Orb user this week. I was really debating, should I go for Life Orb or should I go for Focus Sash? Because of what my plan is with this thing. But I figured I'll take the gamble on the Life Orb just because Galvantula is pretty fast. It can do what I need it to do on some of his slower mons. And I think the Life Orb will actually help in trying to basically chip away at some of his more defensive threats with the moves I have at my disposal. Obviously, Compound Eyes is there to increase my accuracy. Sticky Web, Thunder, Bug Buzz, and Giga Drain is the set. Now, Sticky Web is there mostly to try to slow certain things on his team down. Granted, it doesn't really bother Tornadus Therian, which will still outspeed my entire team regardless. And Rotom Wash isn't really affected by it, but Rotom Wash isn't, unless he puts a Scarf on it, Rotom Wash isn't really the fastest thing around as it is. But it helps me out to slow down the likes of Chinchino, which gets into a speed tie with my Ambipom if he runs Jolly Max Speed. It will slow down the Gardevoir, which I would not be surprised if he brought a Choice Scarf Gardevoir, considering I know that was one of Adri's more popular sets, and it does work, because I've used it myself in the past. The biggest thing, though, is it's going to slow down Mega Charizard X after Mega Evolving. Which, if he tries to pull any Dragon Dancing shenanigans, I will get one free chance to outspeed it with something, and then proceed to hopefully try to get rid of it before it can set up and do a whole lot of damage to me. So, Sticky Web will help against a good chunk of his team. It basically puts some of my other mons, one in particular, in a better position to basically turn right around and basically start picking things off. Thunder is going to hit everything ridiculously hard. Rotom Wash certainly doesn't want to take a Thunder. Tornadus Therian, even Assault Vested, is not going to appreciate eating a Thunder. Bug Buzz will deal with Gardevoir, Chestnut, Uxie. Drapion kind of doesn't really want to eat a Bug Buzz. Meowstic certainly doesn't want to. Giga Drain is there mostly for Regirock, even though I think Thunder actually hits it harder. Just give me a way to counteract the Life Orb damage and just try to chip away at some of his mons that... Well, yeah, that's really the only reason I brought Giga Drain, honestly, is for the Regirock. Maybe to some lesser extent the Nidoking, but it's mostly for Regirock, even though Thunder does do more. Just to be able to help Spider Dance get some health back on it before I most likely will get it out of there. Unless I catch him in a position where I can 2-hit KO it with Spider Dance right then and there. Next up to bat is Tough Tuss, my Donphan. Obviously, he is my Rapid Spinner. Pretty much going with the same standard defensive set. Earthquake, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, and Knockoff. I've got Sturdy at my disposal. Max HP, max defense. This set will be able to best take on Mega Charizard X. I'm saying that up front. This, more so than Leech Grave, is my Mega Charizard X answer. Because Earthquake will almost wipe it out with Stealth Rock damage, even if I don't get them up until after he is already Mega Evolved. Stealth Rocks plus Earthquake will take out Mega Charizard X, and I know I can live at least one hit from that thing, and proceed to wipe it out with an Earthquake. If it falls victim to Sticky Web from Spider Dance, then even better, because then Tough Tuss will be able to outspeed it, and proceed to start, well, blowing it up with Earthquakes. Knockoff will be able to get rid of items on a lot of things. It'll get rid of the potential Assault Vest on his Tornadus Therian. It'll keep Rotom Watch from getting any health back. Stealth Rock and Rapid Sphere kind of self-explanatory. As I said before, Avalug's his only form of hazard control. If that thing goes, Stealth Rocks are going to be something that are going to really put in the work against his entire team. Because Rotom Watch doesn't want to deal with it, especially if he keeps Volt switching in and out. Tornadus Therian, it basically counteracts its Regenerator to some extent. It chips away at just about everything else. Charizard, no matter... Well, if it's before it Mega Evolves, it's not going to like coming in and losing half its health. If it's after it Mega Evolves, they're basically going to put it in a position where Donphan can pretty much take it out. So the Stealth Rock Sticky Web combination, which was one of my cornerstone plans when I initially drafted my team, I think this is the week where I put it to the test and see exactly how well it helps me, because, well, anything that's gonna avoid Sticky Web, it's not gonna like Stealth Rock. Sticky Web and Stealth Rock together are going to basically put put pressure on his entire team, and put me in a very good position to start wiping things out. Especially with my last mon here, good old Vinny Vici, my team captain. Now, as you can see, I am running a modest Choice Specs set this week. This is why Sticky Web really helps me out. Because it puts the vast majority of his team in a position where Vinny Vici will be able to outspeed them, even though I'm not running a speed-boosting nature. And a Choice Specs set is going to devastate a huge chunk of his team. Blue Flare alone, because of the stab, plus the specs and modest nature, is going to one-shot just about everything, honestly. Rotom Wasp certainly doesn't want to take it, even though it can't, even though it's got the typing to take it. Tornadus Therian doesn't really want to take it. Nidoking dies to it. Chestnut's annihilated by it. Gardevoir doesn't want to take it. Drapion doesn't want to take it. Uxie dies to it. Chinchino dies to it. Well, Uxie might be able to live if it gets screens up, but we'll see how well that lasts in the face of a Specs Victini. Meowstic dies to it. Avalugg certainly does not want to take a Blue Flare by any stretch of the imagination. Thunder, Rotom Watch doesn't want to Rotom Watch certainly isn't going to like eating Thunders. Tornadus Therian, even Assault Vested, is 2-hit KO'd by Specs Thunders from Vinny Vici. And obviously, his more physically defensive mons are not going to appreciate eating a Thunder from this thing. Energy Ball is there, mostly specifically for Regirock. It does hit Rotom Watch ridiculously hard as well, but it's mostly there to basically get Regirock out of the picture. And Psychic is there just so I have another stab move, mostly because otherwise, Mega Charizard X actually does not care. It can actually surprisingly take a lot of these hits from even a Specs modest Victini. Psychic, on the other hand, will 2-hit KO it. It even has a very good chance to OHKO after Stealth Rock damage, regardless of whether it's Mega Evolved or not if it comes in on the rocks. But I'm free to run Modest because with the Sticky Web, that will still allow Vinny Vidi Vici to outspeed a vast majority of his team and be able to fire off the big hit necessary to almost guarantee that I'm gonna wipe something out. So as you can see, I'm kind of banking on a certain plan here. Maybe that's not my brightest idea, but I'm going with what I think is going to work given the limited amount of time I had to try and prep this team this week in the face of work and other commitments. As proof of that, I'm actually recording this on the day it's supposed to go up, so if it is a day late, then there's your reason why. I apologize. It's just been a bad week for me. But that is my team. I think it's going to work. It just depends on how the match is going to play out. Especially against a rather devastating team to face, actually. So, I'm going to go see if I can track down Inferno Chimchar. And we're going to go get our match taken care of. So, thank you guys so very much for watching. I have been Ruppy. And give me some support to help cheer the Columbus Swoo on to hopefully a continuation of our unbeaten ways. I will see you guys later. Take care.